Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to the second episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker, and
Darth Bobcat, also known as DB Fastbinder.
we got some pretty good positive feedback for the last episode, so we're very thankful, and we're gonna keep going with it the way we're doing it right now. So.
Yep, I expect that over time we'll narrow down to a smaller number of topics, but for right now, if it's pop culture related, it's on the table.
Yes, it is. And if you're new, if you didn't catch what we catch the show last week, what we do is we start off with something that we've been watching or something we've been doing for the last week, and then talk about it for a little bit, and then that's when we move on to the topics. So for me, so I'll go first because one of our topics ties in with DB's thing of the week.
Mhm.
But for my topic, I or I should say, rewatched a documentary called Leap of Faith, and it's basically a long form interview with William Friedkin, film director, who's best known for his work on The Exorcist, and that's what he talks about for almost 2 hours is him working on The Exorcist, and it's very interesting look, a very in-depth look at it from his perspective. He's a very interesting guy. Uh, I would characterize his religious beliefs as being agnostic.
Hmm.
I don't think he's a Christian, but he definitely believes there is a higher power. Because one of the things he talked about throughout this interview was fate, and him believing that everything that he did in making this movie, him even being able to make the movie, was fate, was providence, God, whatever whatever people believe, and he also has a very interesting way of filmmaking that people would people in Hollywood would not be able to get away with today.
Uh-oh.
uh, One of those things was he to get a reaction out of the actors to like get them to jump and whatever.
Mhm.
He would stand behind the camera and fire a gun.
What?
Yes.
I thought the guy who did The Shining was bad, just like, or was it? No, it was
Uh,
Alfred Hitchcock who would just like scare his actresses relentlessly. But damn,
yeah.
shooting a gun.
Yeah. And he admits it too, and unapologetically, he'd say, yeah, like the scene where Father Karras is listening to a recording, and then the phone rings, and he jumps, and he said, well, I didn't play a telephone ringing, I fired a gun. It's like, oh, okay.
The Alec Baldwin method.
Oh yeah.
Is it
But
is enough time passed we can joke about that? About how he killed a person?
yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it's been like
I,
6 months. Yeah.
if the joke is at the expense of Alec, I think it's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and he would also there was another scene too where one of the priests in the movie is actually a Catholic priest. He wasn't an actor.
Hmm.
Um, and the scene where at the end of the movie when Father Karras is laying on the ground and he's dying, and the other priest, who's his friend, comes in to give him the last rites, and of course he had to be very emotional doing it, and the guy couldn't really, freaking wasn't getting the reaction that he wanted, and so he'd pulled him
Oh
aside and
no.
said, Father, do you love me? He said, yes, I love you. And he said, okay, do you trust me? Yes, I trust you. All right. Pow. right in the
Not,
right
not
in the
anymore. You don't.
Yeah, not anymore. He just smacks him, throws him in front of the camera, and says, action. Once again,
Uh,
could not do that today.
no.
but uh, but yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. if you, it's on Shutter. So although it might be on another, it might be on other platforms, but I watched it on Shutter.
So
And
I think Shutter is owned by it's either AMC or Warner Brothers. So yeah,
AMC. Yeah.
okay. So I might drift over to AMC Plus at some point.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, he talks about it in like all the different, artistic choices that he made, and the different casting and everything, and but yeah, I would, if you got an afternoon, if you have Shutter and you got an don't have anything else to watch, and you're a fan of The Exorcist, I would, yeah. Also, if you like The Exorcist, definitely watch this to give you another insight into the movie. And I would also say too, it's a good companion to The Exorcist. I mean, you could watch this and then go watch The Exorcist, or vice versa.
Right. Well, would you say if you're someone like me who hasn't ever gotten around to seeing The Exorcist, that I'd get much out of it?
Um. Yeah. I would say watch the movie first and then watch this. Yeah. If you
Okay,
have.
so this isn't a documentary that means a lot if you haven't seen the movie.
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think I've said all I need to say about this. So, DB, why don't talk about your thing of the week?
Yep. So my thing of the week, and I should have had this image ready to go, but eh. Let's see here. Do. We'll do it live.
Well,
One
I'll give
one of the
everybody a
all-time
hint.
great memes.
Yeah, yeah. I'll give everybody a hint. It's blue
It's red too.
and red. Yeah.
All right. So my thing of the week was last week. A friend and I went to go see Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in theaters. Um, my relationship with the Sonic the Hedgehog series is very weird. I accidentally turned myself into a fan at some point. I was a Nintendo kid growing up. I never really played the games much, except my granddad had Sonic CD on his PC for some reason, for us kids to play, of all things.
Huh.
Um, so that's still my like, emotional childhood favorite, even though it isn't the best of the 2D Sonic games.
Mhm.
And then Sonic 06 came out, and I watched Kung Fu Jesus's like 20-hour Let's Play of it, where he and some friends just sat down and played it start to finish, and it's one of the all-time great Let's Plays in my opinion. Just because it's them realizing like the Sonic series had been on shaky ground like after the end of Adventure 2 for a bit, but boy, that was a new low.
Mm.
Like just the first time that those long loading screens happened, and the first time that
Yeah.
they went, "Wait, what?" Just with all the bugs and the bad game design.
Mm.
And ever since then, I've occasionally watched stuff on YouTube about like criticizing the series where it went wrong, and uh, and then at some point I started just watching this because I think it's interesting to talk about these characters because they're just so mishandled. And then I watch this movie and I go, God damn it. I get every one of these stupid references. The coffee shop is called the Mean Bean, which is like there was a puzzle game called Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. At one point, there's a biplane, and I go, "Oh, that looks like Tails' biplane." And what do you know? Tails commandeers it at some point. um, they managed to avoid a "Do you know de way brother" thing with Knuckles, which is good. So they didn't do that. They couldn't survive that.
No.
But they talk about. Uh, I'm getting this out of so basically that's why I ended up watching it. And then the first movie was the last movie I watched before the pandemic. Second one was the first American movie I saw in theaters. Last week I saw Jujutsu Kaisen, so doesn't that broke the record, but
Yeah.
still, it's a good continuation of the first movie. Knuckles, this is probably the best Knuckles has ever been.
Mm.
Idris Elba does a great job. My biggest critique is that there might be too many human characters at this point, and they may not have enough to do. There are scenes where James Marsden and I forget the name of the actress who plays his wife, that they were like doing a very good job and very much into it. but in like some of the later scenes, I could see her smile is not touching her eyes. Like, I'm
Mm.
going to act against Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, who are not actually physically present right now, and I'm supposed to act like I love them. That these are my fur babies.
Yeah.
uh, and so like I have a feeling that those characters are not going to be around much in the third movie, which
Mm.
they definitely have a setup for a third movie.
Ah.
Yeah, Knuckles is handled well. Tails is kind of shoved in there because they didn't want to give Tails a whole movie because Tails isn't a villain.
Mm.
Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik is great. If you have even a mild relationship with the games and the media, it's worth a watch. Again, Idris Elba's Knuckles is really steals the show every time he's on scene
Mm.
or he's in the scene. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
it's just a straightforward action movie for kids.
yeah. So would you say it's uh, as good or better than the first, or?
Hmm. So, insofar as they can kind of just get right into it with the superhuman aspects,
Mm.
it's a bit better. I feel like there's a little bit of lag with. I mentioned before the human characters kind of felt like they didn't have as much to do, and they
Mm.
introduced some more human characters, which minor problem, but they were setting up Gun from Sonic Adventure 2 for the third movie. So it's like,
Uh,
okay, fine, you got to have some human agents to be the human agency that's going to hunt Sonic or whatever.
yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 I will definitely be seeing. I'll try to see this movie. I want to see this movie in the theater, but I don't know if I'll be able to or not. But I'll definitely get it on Blu-ray and at some when it comes out, because I enjoyed the first one a lot, and I didn't think I would, but I did.
yeah, I was surprised too.
Yeah. I saw the first one largely because of the controversy with
Oh
with
yeah,
with Sonic. Not when they did the first trailer and they showed Sonic, and he didn't look like Sonic. He looked like a you know um,
oops, a
uh,
spoiler alert.
yeah, spoiler. Yeah, spoiler for our next topic. But I but I because of the controversy, and then and Sonic looked terrible, and then the director came out and said, "Well, oh yeah, here we go. We can get it back in."
He didn't do the typical modern Hollywood thing and say that we were bigots for not liking it or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He. Oh, oops. Ah, there we go. Yeah, the director came out and he just said, "Okay, yeah, we're sorry. We'll fix it." And even though it the movie got pushed back, I think like 3 or 4 months.
I think it was like more like 6.
6? Okay, yeah, it got pushed back like 6 months, and they had to spend like a few million dollars to fix it. But yeah, when they did that, I said, okay, I I respect them doing that and actually listening to people, and so I wanted to give them my support, and I ended up enjoying the movie. So
At some point, if they ever came out with the Blu-ray edition of the original character design model, like
mm,
before they went back and changed it, I would totally buy that just for the weird experience.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was actually thinking that the other day, like, what would that movie have been as successful as it was, and would we have a Sonic 2 if they had kept that design in there?
I
Probably
don't know.
not.
Yeah, yeah, that was definitely a good investment.
Yeah.
The other thing that now I've heard conspiracy theories that they made a bad trailer on purpose to generate controversy so they can go back and fix it. But I don't know if I buy that
Yeah, I don't buy that either. Yeah.
because if they had done that, they wouldn't have pushed it back 6 months.
Yeah.
Because every time you delay a movie, it costs you a lot of money
Yeah.
because you have to redo contracts and you've presumably spent advertising money that you now have to respend later. It was a
Mhm.
problem that a lot of COVID movies hit.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't think that they did that on purpose. I think they just. Yeah. It's.
Let's
But
put that horrible vision away.
yes. Yeah. Like, ugh. But yeah. Do you? recommend Sonic 2?
I recommend. I don't know how they managed to make these 3 foot tall anthropomorphic characters look natural next to the humans, but they've actually managed to pull it off. They're believable.
Yeah. All right. Very cool.
Speaking of which, box office.
Yes. So.
So Sonic was indeed the #1 movie last weekend, earning
Mhm.
a little bit over 70 million. This cumulative is for the week, Monday through, or excuse me, yeah, Monday through Thursday. On top of that,
Mhm.
or Monday through Wednesday, I should say. So it looks like it's well on its way to making back its money. Which actually, it's kind of interesting how much cheaper this movie was than, say, Shang-Chi, for example.
Mm.
Despite having some big set pieces and, well, main characters that are 100% CGI.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what Disney is spending that extra money on.
I don't know. Yeah. I often wonder like how a movie, with a relatively with a lower budget like Sonic can, they can churn out something that looks great, and then you bring in another, you like you said, a movie like Shang-Chi that probably had probably double the budget of Sonic, and just ugh.
Yeah, the best part of that movie was the down the hill San Francisco bus fight scene.
Yeah.
That was cool. If the
Yeah.
whole movie had been like that, I would have had a much better time.
Yeah, that reminded me of it reminded me of a Jackie Chan movie.
Oh, I think I actually heard that they brought in some of Jackie Chan's people to, like, some people who had worked with Jackie Chan on his movies for that scene. So,
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it looked, yeah, it looked like a Jackie Chan fight scene. Yeah.
uh,
But yeah,
on the
and
other hand,
but on the other hand, yeah, Morbius.
yeah, Morbius, it might still make money because it's an even cheaper movie than Sonic.
Mm.
But its second week is or second weekend has come and gone, and it was down like 70-80% from the first weekend, which the first weekend wasn't that great.
Yeah.
So word of mouth is getting out there, and I wonder at what point they'll just stop letting Jared Leto be in movies.
God.
There,
You'd
one
think
can
they would
hope.
do. Yeah, one can hope. You'd think they would do it. They would have figured it out after, Joker, him playing the Joker. But
Yeah. Although to be fair, this has been in the can long enough that that might have been before that could have affected things.
that's true. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, but yeah, it's pretty amazing. And of course, I got to share this meme. That I actually really. Let's see, where is it? Okay. Yeah. The,
Although also that Jared Leto did the important work of making everybody except Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker very well.
yes.
For those who might be listening, it's
Yeah.
Sonic standing in front of Birds of Prey. Want to see me outperform a major comic book movie? Sonic 2 in front of Morbius. Want to see me do it again? Although I do have to question if Birds of Prey and Morbius count as major movies in any sense. I guess they were meant to be major movies.
I think they were. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, especially Birds of Prey. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
which I've never bothered to watch that.
I haven't either.
Most people haven't.
Yeah. I might have I might have caught a couple of scenes of it when I was on a plane
Hmm.
a couple of years ago, but that's it.
Yeah, it's we talked about this last week. Gee, what do you know? You can't take. I mean, I guess I can see why they would go for Morbius because, like, oh, it's a scientist guy who turns himself into a vampire. That you could turn into a standalone movie, but
Hmm.
not with this formula apparently.
Nope. Uh,
Then before we get into our main topic, one little thing. We
mm,
lost Gilbert Gottfried this week, which was actually kind of a shock. I'll tell you that when I was reading through the tweet, or I saw a tweet announcing it, and it was very, staid. Like after a battle with a long illness, it's like, okay, where's the punchline? He
mhm.
was known for his dark humor. Oh, the
Uh,
punchline is there is no punchline this time.
yeah, yeah. It's we've it's this year's kind of reminded me of 2017, like when we had a bunch of people, a bunch of really great celebrities and great artists and everybody passing away, and seems to be repeating that. Although I will confess I was not the biggest fan of Gilbert Godfrey, but I liked his. I liked him doing the voice of the duck in the Aflac commercials.
Up until he made jokes after the big tsunami they had up in Japan, because Aflac makes a lot of money in Japan.
Hmm. Yeah, but yeah, it's. But that being said, it's obviously very sad to see him go.
Yeah.
Um,
He had the amazing. He was kind of like up there with Fran Drescher, with the ability to take having the most annoying voices that God ever inflicted on a human being and monetizing it.
yes. Yeah, and uh, yeah, it's and obviously you add him into I was talking to before the show. I saw a picture. I think it was on Instagram. I mean, you had uh, Gilbert Godfrey in a photo with Bob Saget and Norm Macdonald.
Mm.
And it was just like, ugh.
Norm hits the hardest.
Yeah, Norm hits pretty hard, yeah. And I think there was another one where Louis Anderson was in there. There was another one with Gilbert Godfrey and Louis Anderson. I'm like, because I actually I liked Louis Anderson when I was a kid.
I
Um,
remember watching Life with Louie, like
mhm.
his that Fox cartoon about him.
Yeah, yeah, that was a lot of that show was based on his stand-up routine. Um, and but yeah, it's uh, obviously another great funny man gone in 2022, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, the only episode of that show I remember is like Louis's dad decided he wanted to raise his own honey and got way too attached to the bees, wearing a big bee suit, sleeping out by the beehive. And then he finds out that he picked a species of bee that doesn't actually make honey.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that sounds like a that sounds like a Louis Anderson bit. Yeah, but
Yeah,
but yeah, yeah,
via con Dios, Gilbert.
yeah, via con Dios. Yeah. Right. So on to the big topic.
Yes. So this is something that's been in the works for a while. AT&T has finished its spinoff, uh, selling a large stake in its Warner Brothers or Time Warner Brothers division to Discovery to form the new Warner Brothers Discovery combo unit.
Hmm.
Now, this is something where I like to dabble in investing a little bit. This is right up my alley in terms of boring. I love boring dividend companies. I'm Tesla, psh, Amazon, psh, Kimberly Clark, yeah,
Yeah.
Verizon, sure. And there's a book I read about 10 years ago that I think about often called Billion Dollar Mistakes, or no, Billion Dollar Lessons,
Mhm.
which is about a history of corporate America making really stupid decisions because it sounded good at the time. And one of the biggest things you can do that's stupid is buy into an industry that you don't actually have any experience in, on the theory that, well, it's adjacent to our product, so we should have some place in it. Like over time, Sony's movie making division, I think it bought Columbia Pictures, has cost it billions of dollars. I don't know if it's ever been net profitable for them.
Oof.
Uh, Actually, probably with the Spider-Man movies, it would have to have been at some point.
Mhm.
But it's still like they've had to take down big write-downs on it over time.
Yeah.
Movie, and just to give you an idea of how clueless Sony was about buying Columbia, when they had you had the Japanese executives down there talking with the people at Columbia who were explaining how the movie industry works. And the person says, okay, so let's say you put out 10 movies. You'll have one hit, three or four, you'll have, five or six that'll break even or do okay. Then you'll have like four bombs, but the hit makes up for the bomb. So you have to have the hit. And the
Mhm.
executive thought about it, or the executive for Sony thought about it and said, well, why don't you just make 10 hits? Because they were a company that was used to thinking in terms of, okay, we make TVs and camcorders and Walkman, and because this was in the 80s when they bought this.
Yeah.
Um, and the whole reason they bought it was they said, well, movies play on our TVs, so and we're the biggest TV producer in the world, so we should have some role in what goes on the TV, right?
Hmm.
Which it's a bit like Kodak back in the day deciding to get into chemical manufacturing because, oh, well, our film is made of chemicals, so therefore,
Yeah. Well, I would say Sony buying Columbia makes more sense than the company that owned Sony or owned Columbia before them,
who is that?
Coca-Cola.
What?
Hmm.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I mean,
It-
I knew GE owned CBS or was it CBS
N
for a long time.
NBC.
NBC, that's right. There were jokes on 30 Rock about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, that was because back in the day, GE was basically just like one of those Japanese conglomerates just in the U.S.
yeah,
where like Samsung or Sony, where they had a little bit of everything.
yeah, yeah.
But so AT&T engaged in a similar sort of thing. They said, well, we make cell phones and we sell internet service, and I saw the logic in it, which was basically okay. This is becoming a commodity where over time the amount that we can charge for a gigabyte of internet is going to decline.
Hmm.
Um, Also, cable is slowly going on the way out. This was like we're talking 20, I think 2015, 2016 is when they started making the purchase,
Hmm.
maybe a bit before that. And so it's like, okay, so cable's on the decline. That's one of our big businesses. Internet is, it's a commodity. Phone service is a commodity. And it's just going to go down over time as more people enter the market.
Hmm.
Well, we need to own some of the content that we put in there because that's basically evergreen. That's always has a high profit margin. And what they ultimately were forced to conclude was that we don't actually know how to run a movie studio or a video game studio
Yeah,
or a comic book publisher or CNN for that matter.
yeah, yeah,
S-
and yeah. So it when that. Oh, hey, Serena, good to see you. Um, yeah, it's you think you have an idea. It's funny when people they think they have an idea of how an industry works, because oh well, we look at something that's kind of closer related to that, but then it's like no, you really don't.
no, well,
Yeah,
now they might have been able to make it work if, oh, say they'd had a few years to figure things out and they'd kept being able to put movies into theaters and while they built up HBO Max slowly over time. And nope, pandemic.
yeah.
Sorry, guys. When they had the biggest recorded, I think nearly 200 billion or maybe a little bit over,
Mm.
and in a corporate debt.
Oh,
Well, I think Warner Brothers. It was either 30 billion or 70 billion. I forget which. It was some exorbitant amount that was going to be very hard for them to pay back if everything went perfectly.
yeah, yeah. That's even with a major company like that, you rack up that much debt. Like that's not
Uh,
that's not a really feasible way of running a
Well,
business.
they were like one of the 50-year dividend growth champions, where they
Hmm.
had been raising their company's annual dividend to stockholders every single year like clockwork. And I was actually considering buying into them because, oh, yielding 9%, that's really good. And then I looked at it, it's like, wait a minute, you're paying more into dividends than you earned in 2020.
Mm.
That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it wasn't. They've had to slash their dividend because of the write down. And some people have said that Discovery bought Warner Brothers. That isn't quite accurate. It's more like AT&T spun it off, sold a big chunk of it to Discovery, and then they merged the companies together. But AT&T still has a big ownership in it in the
Yeah.
new combined company. Now, I almost wish I had bought some AT&T stock because if you had it at a certain date, you would get pieces of the new. You basically get some free shares of Warner Brothers Discovery.
Mm.
But I missed my opportunity there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
spin-offs and free stock are always nice, but eh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But
it- but basically, they now have a new guy by the name of Zaslav, and as well as names where I always only ever hear people say his last name. I don't think I've ever actually heard anyone say his first name.
mm, is
Not
it
that I think he's like Prince or something, but he's probably just like everyone just calls him Zaslav because it's a fun
Zazzle?
name to say.
Yeah. Well, it sounds a little too much like, like I hear it. I'm reminded of Victor Zaz.
That name does not ring a bell.
That's
It sounds like,
as a Batman villain.
oh God, that guy. That's psycho.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, uh, speaking of Batman, I guess that's a transition.
Oh yeah.
Totally intentional, guys. Um,
Yes.
so there's a lot of things that are going into this. Discovery is mostly a reality TV company. He runs it cheap. He's run it without a lot of debt and expenses. He's now coming into a company where they've been spending like drunken sailors on shore leave,
Hmm.
and he's coming in. There's word. The word is out that basically, if you can't justify what you've been doing and what you're going to do, you're out. And he's bringing in his group of people who are loyal to him.
Hmm. Which is not uncommon in takeover and mergers like this. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, it's that often happens when the people become redundant, or the new people come in, they want to bring in their own people, and then a lot of the higher ups who, let's face it, at Warner Brothers, a lot of the higher ups at Warner Brothers have been really screwing the pooch the
Yeah,
last the last 5 or 6 years. um and so a lot of them are, actually, a lot of them have already been given their walking papers. What's her name? I just lost her name. It was the old CEO of Warner Brothers.
yeah. I mean,
Sarnoff.
Sarnoff. That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ann Sarnoff. Yeah. Yeah, she's already gone.
right. I mean, the fact that they botched the DCEU so completely, which is not a statement about the actual quality of the movies, but in terms of crowd reaction to them, I
Hmm.
can't think of anything. The only thing that's more divisive at this point is like Star Wars and Star Trek and Doctor Who,
Hmm.
because I'll actually run into people who like the DCEU more than I do,
Yeah.
where like those franchises feel like if you like them, you're kind of just saying you like them for because your side is supposed to like them.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, and yeah, both of us, we know people who are big fans of the DCEU,
Hmm.
and Zack Snyder in particular. His his vision of it, which, I'm going to be honest, I'm really not a big fan of it, because
No.
it's to me, he doesn't understand the characters.
Well, the
Uh,
weird the weird thing to me is that is like it feels like he understands the characters, but he just can't articulate it properly.
mm. Well, he makes. I mean, that was what got me with the Snyder cut, the Snyder cut of Justice League. Like, it was just like the amount of violence was so over the top. I thought, I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
you're showing Wonder Woman braining people, and and Superman just wailing away on Steppenwolf. I'm like,
well, it's like, why did Superman burn off his horn? Like, was the
yeah,
horn a threat to Superman? Did the horn was the horn part of his powers? No, he basically had him pinned down and then he pointlessly mutilated him.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it was a humiliation, which is not Superman.
Well, and for that matter, the So I want you to imagine this. Steppenwolf manages to get away, goes through the portal, and is so happy back home. Lord Darkseid, these humans, they're so powerful. And then Darkseid just vaporizes him with his Omega beams.
Hmm.
Now, a very good friend of mine said that sounds like a take for the DC animated universe from the 90s and 2000s. That sounds more like that Darkseid than the Darkseid they were going for here.
Hmm.
And it's like, why is that a problem? Why is that's not a bad?
No, that's not a bad thing. No, I liked that dark side from
Yeah,
from that animated. So like yeah, Michael Ironside did the voice. Yeah,
yeah.
that was a yeah the way he yeah the way Dark's that's another wasted thing was like Darkseid in that animated show. Darkseid really gets under Superman's skin,
Hmm.
and I was really hoping they would do something like that in the DCEU.
Yeah,
And
it almost seems like a waste to send Steppenwolf in there and have him be the big threat of a movie before Darkseid shows up.
yeah, yeah, and I didn't like what they did to Darkseid in that whole the Lord of the Rings thing.
Oh yeah, it's funny. It seems like whether you like the movie or not is the big determiner of if you see this. Oh man, Darkseid showed up, but he was barely fought off. Versus Darkseid showed up and he beat up the worst Green Lantern we've ever seen in any medium. Like that Green Lantern got hit by like a flying parademon, fell to the ground, couldn't get it up in time, and then he just got stabbed or
Yeah,
killed casually.
yeah,
And it's like, it's like, and that's actually a thing I noticed that outside of 300, actually, in a lot of the DCEU stuff, how it's like in a good fight scene, like you feel like all the characters are really powerful and oh man, they're just barely keeping up with each other.
hmm,
Somehow, in a lot of those fight scenes from the Snyder Cut, it's almost like, how to put it? It's like everybody comes off badly at the same time. Like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, especially that Lord of the Rings fight scene. It's like everybody just comes off as like a bunch of incompetents flailing at each other.
yeah,
And I watched it recently when my friend was like, whose opinion I do respect, like, you're misremembering that fight scene. And then I watched it again. I was like, no,
no,
that's
that's
that's how it comes off. Like I mean, the behind the scene thing is like, well, I mean, that was Darkseid before he was Darkseid. It's like, okay,
yeah,
yeah, maybe if we saw him use his Omega beams to vaporize, yeah, maybe if Steppenwolf had been like strong enough to actually put up a fight against Superman, but he managed to escape. I'll get you again, Superman, and he was actually a threat to Superman. And then
mhm,
Darkseid vaporized him with his Omega beams. That would have been like a good way to set up the power scaling.
yes, yes,
But no, we didn't get that.
no, no,
Also, if you're playing the DB and Daniel drinking game at home, we've trashed the DCEU for a few minutes to take a shot.
yes,
But yeah, that's the interesting thing with the DCEU is that it's summoned such strong feelings, and there are people who love it and people who hate it, and that's actually almost more of a problem than if it was just completely hated, right?
hmm,
Because like say Ghostbusters 2016, completely hated. Nobody would ever look at that. Again, it's like there are some movies that are popular because or that people pretend online are popular because my side likes it.
hmm,
Like, oh yeah, Ghostbusters 2016 was great. Feminism, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Um, you go girls, and that's the only good thing anybody ever says about it.
hmm,
But no one was ever seriously going to make a sequel to Ghostbusters 2016. But what if Ghostbusters 2016 had been like modestly successful? What if it had like broken even and they'd had like 10 million in profit at the box office?
mm,
Then it's like, well, do we abandon this because it's not super popular, it's kind of divisive, but it still made money.
hmm,
Like all those DCEU movies made money, just not Marvel money.
yeah,
So that's an awkward position to be in. So
Mhm.
I don't necessarily envy Zaslav and team having to come in and sort that out.
Yeah, and it's well, people pointed this out from the beginning. The franchise really had no v- person. It had no direction, and had no person. Like a Kevin Feige type guy.
Hmm.
Overseeing it and being able to keep keep the everybody in together and in check, as a result you just have this kind of like cluttered mess of all these different movies that are connected. They're supposed to be
Hmm.
connected to each other, but then it's like, but then they're kind of not, and.
Right. Zack Snyder is like the most effed over director ever.
Hmm.
Because it's like, oh, I'm going to make a Superman movie, then I'll make a Superman 2 movie, then we'll go from there. Oh, your first Superman movie didn't quite do what you did. Scrap all your plans for Man of Steel 2 and throw in Batman.
Yeah.
Oh, you turned in this treatment for a 3-hour movie? Yeah, we approve that. Oh, that's too long. Cut an hour out. Okay, go make a Justice League movie. Oh, the Batman and Superman movie wasn't as successful as we wanted. Um, yeah, make it completely different. We'll get that Joss Whedon guy, the Buffy guy, Avengers guy. We'll bring him in.
uh, yeah, yeah.
Uh, it's like we never really got to see what Snyder's uncut vision would have been. Would it
Mhm.
have been good? Well, I don't think I would have liked it, but it would have been more coherent.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, obviously, like with of course, the sorting out the a messy storyline franchise isn't the only thing they got to deal with. They're gonna have to deal with certain actors who are
Um, I think we might have heard about that.
yes, yes. We talked about one of them last week. Um, and of course there's another one right now. Well, she's been a problem for a while, for a few years now, but it's only recently that her troubles are probably going to really come back on not just her but probably the franchise in general.
It's kind of interesting that this is all happening right around the time when uh, that the merger is getting its final approval.
Hmm.
Because I've heard people like Kamran Pasha, who's a writer in Hollywood, talk about this before. Like the news cycles very rarely tend to be, or I should say, in Hollywood trades, news cycles tend to have some sort of reason for being posted. Like he's like, there's conspiracy and everything. Like that's like conspiracy. More like if you're working for the Hollywood Reporter or whatever, there's lots of stuff you can report on any given day, but there's like an agenda you're probably feeding into with it.
Hmm.
So it's like all this bad news as the guy's coming in. Either somebody's trying to bury him with bad news, or it's a huge coincidence, which I guess there were things going there, but or they're trying to like make the case, hey, now he's coming in, all this bad news that we've been having the last month can finally go away.
Hmm. Yeah, that could very well be the case. And and it will, and obviously, we gotta sit back and wait and see what will happen um,
Yep.
with that, with regards to that stuff. Of course, I think they've already done filming the Flash,
Right. They would have
and
to do some heavy reshoots to get Miller out of there.
yeah, and same with Aquaman 2. They've already
Yep.
finished filming that, and obviously, like I said, have to do reshoots if they want to take out a certain actress out of that movie.
Yeah, it really depends on how prominent she is in the movie. Although
Uh, yeah, from what I heard, not she's not as prominent as she was in the first one.
wonder if that was on purpose,
Probably.
just in case they did have to swap someone in.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember uh, so for example, one of the people at Warner Brothers who's probably on his way out, Walter Hamada.
Hmm.
Um, he apparently apparently in the testimony that he gave in a certain trial,
That you may
um,
have heard about.
you may have heard about. Apparently, he wanted to get rid of the actress playing Mira for the second movie and replace her with Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones, but he couldn't do it, and they had to stick with her with the other actress.
We are not mentioning because the YouTube algorithm is a harsh god.
Yes, and yes, the YouTube algorithm really likes her for some reason. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, reshooting a movie with a different actor is not unheard of.
Hmm.
Um, a recent movie, which a famous one with it was All the Money in the World, I think is what it was called. Um, about the Getty kidnapping. Um, with John Paul Getty as his grandson. Um Originally, the I don't know if it's okay to name this actor, uh, mention this actor's name, but I'll just say the guy who played the guy from House of Cards. Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
wrong. Lex Luthor, one of the early
yes,
names.
yes. He was playing John Paul Getty in that movie.
Oh,
Yeah, and stuff started coming out about him, and they actually went back and took him out, and they put in Christopher Plummer.
hmm.
So I don't know if they would do that here,
Yeah, I
but
guess it depends on what the actual outcome of that trial is.
mhm, yeah, but but yeah, hopefully some good stuff will come uh, from this little merger. Some big changes that will be made, uh, whether it be in the movie side, the TV side, or the comic book side, because those areas of Warner Brothers have been a mess.
Mhm.
As we've said before, and which is kind of sad because Warner Brothers is one of the oldest movie studios in Hollywood. I mean, they've made some great classics throughout
Mhm.
the decades, and they've got some great properties that they own, and they're kind of squandering all of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like bad management. All the parts of the company don't talk to each other. So I heard that DC Comics got surprised that Peacemaker was going to be in the upcoming Suicide Squad movies. They kind of had to scramble to make a new comic book featuring him.
Uh, yeah.
I heard that somewhere, and well, and the biggest news coming out of DC Comics recently has been, oh, we made another character bisexual. Wait, you did that last month with Tim Drake. Yeah, but now it's Superman's son,
Yeah.
which, well, bounding into comics, it is what it is as a source.
Mhm.
It's out of the top 50, just like everything else that isn't Batman for
Yeah.
DC, because it seems like they can only sell Batman anymore. Which is why there's talk of getting that Kevin Feige figure for all of DC's properties.
Yes.
Make the comic books and the TV shows and the movies actually resemble each other. Don't have Superman and Aquaman and Wonder Woman and Batman replaced by their more diverse counterparts at the same time you're trying to sell the originals in movies and TV. It's like you can't do the all new all different Marvel thing. It doesn't work.
No, no. And you would think that DC would look at what Marvel did there and see that it didn't work and realize, oh, maybe we shouldn't do that.
No, that's what happens when you have bad. That's what happens when you have bad management. It's like you're just trying to you're throwing stuff against a wall to see if it works, and you can kind of do that in the comic book industry because you're spending tens of thousands of dollars to make these properties, so you can try a bunch of things.
Hmm.
You can't really take the same approach to high budget TV shows and movies.
Hmm.
Do you know how?
Do,
Do you know
do you
who
know who
Alan Ituriel is? I can't
Ituriel?
say I've heard of that.
I haven't either. Yeah.
Uh, who is that?
I don't know who that is. Yeah. Uh,
Oh, the Has-Been Hotel guy. Okay,
oh, okay.
that's here. Well, that's here.
Uh,
As well as the creator of Villainous.
iCartoons. Hmm.
I'm guessing there's some sort of iCartoons. No, that's actually new to us.
Oh yeah, that's I've never heard of it. Kind of looks like very CalArts.
Is that a Warner Brothers thing?
Uh, doesn't look. I don't think so.
Hmm.
They're based in Miami.
Oh, you could go walk over and ask if they're part of Warner Brothers.
That's a long walk.
I don't know Florida geography.
It's it's about a 3.5 hour drive for me.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, shorter than it would be for me. So,
yeah, it's true. um, but yeah, uh, obviously we're a little hopeful that this might be a good thing for the company.
mhm.
And to that end, do you want to do the 5 things we want to see from?
Yes.
Yeah,
We both came up with little lists of, what's our. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. Don't want to spoil my notes here.
hmm
All right. All right. So, my first thing that I would really love to see,
hmm
and I'm just thinking about all the properties that Warner Brothers owns, Rooster Teeth, CNN. Well, not so much thinking about CNN because we're at a politics podcast, but
yeah.
so number one, I'd really love to just see a full-scale Ruby reboot. They're doing something kind of similar with it, with their new Queendom thing, which is like an alternate universe retelling, or they're going all Spider-Verse with it, from what I understand.
Mm,
But I just mean like, Ruby was basically made by a guy who his whole writing experience up to that point was he made a bunch of Halo versus Samus or whatever CGI movies for himself. Then he got started working for Rooster Teeth to animate their fight scenes for Red versus Blue. And then they gave him a writing team that was like 2 guys who had never written anything before. So I would love to see Ruby done, and yeah, outsource it to Japan like they are doing with Queendom. The guy who did the character designs uh, for Steins Gate and Whole Life's Takanashi Kiara is actually in charge of that one,
mm,
or at least
wow,
the character designs for it,
wow.
and it looks kind of promising. Like just give an anime studio a directive. Hey, adapt this, and you can make it whatever you want.
hmm
Because there's a lot of cool ideas that a lot of fan fiction people have made interesting things out of, but we don't know what to do with it. Just give us our cut,
Yes.
and we'll put it on HBO Max.
Mhm.
So that's my first one. What's your first wish?
So my first wish would be a well, I we kind of already touched on it, but yeah, like having a somebody at the top to run well, first of all, I would say completely. I say completely reboot the DC movie universe
Hmm.
and put somebody in charge of it that actually understands the characters and knows who they are, and so that they actually come off as they're the genuine characters on screen as opposed to what we
Hmm.
got with Snyder's movies.
Right. Snyder's is like a weird Elseworlds, and DC is very good at making Elseworlds, but you don't necessarily need that for your main movie universe.
Yeah, Yeah, you need the actual characters. You need Superman. You need the actual Superman, the actual Batman, the actual Wonder Woman, Green Lantern. Oh, okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. Um,
Yes.
I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, but yeah, Martian Manhunter, etc. The Flash, everybody.
Yeah. My second want is a mobile app for the DC Comics that's as good as the Shonen Jump app, which is so nice because you can basically get a huge like unlimited reading. Well, 100 chapters a day is effectively unlimited reading for me
Mhm.
of uh, of a bunch of Shonen Jump manga, and it's like, how do they possibly make money off of this with $2 a month? Well, first answer is they're making more money than they are when you pirate it off of Manga Reader or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
But also, you're reading through the app and you hit the end and, oh, I enjoyed that Burn the Witch manga. Oh, what's that? I go right and, oh, what's this? I can move on to the next chapter. But down here, buy the volume.
Hmm.
So it's basically people paying $2 a month to get lightly advertised to. And so,
Yeah.
like, you take the whole DC Comics backlog, you put it up there for $2 a month, and you have places where you can go buy the trades or buy the volumes on Kindle or whatever, like that.
They're missing out on a big revenue source right there.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if what's that? You're afraid that you're gonna cut down on people going to your comic book shop. I mean, the comic book industry is like probably maybe 100,000 people who regularly go to comic book shops.
Yeah.
You could get millions of people paying into that app if you do it right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would love to, have an app like that to, go through their back catalog and
Yeah.
read all their old, the old DC, all the old DC stuff.
Now, I
Mm.
might technically say, but DB, they already have a DC Unlimited app. Yeah, for $10 a month.
Yeah, they don't.
And for
Yeah.
everything I've heard, it doesn't run very well.
Yeah. Yeah. You,
So,
you need to make it a little more affordable than that. Yeah.
right, $10 a month. I'm thinking, oh, do I want that, or do I want to go buy a game on Xbox? Some indie game, or do I want to go buy a volume of a manga I want to read? Yeah, it's $2. I don't even think about $2.
Oh yeah. 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 $2. That's a drop in the bucket for a lot of people. Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
Heck, a kid with an allowance could afford that.
yeah. Um, I will say so. My second thing, and I guess I'll go ahead and mention it because I touched on it. A decent Green Lantern movie.
That's impossible. Clearly, that's impossible.
Well, I mean, it can't be impossible. I mean, you've got to be able to at least do something. I mean, you can't. I mean, don't make the CGI suit.
Well, and the other thing is, and this is kind of amusing that we're jumping the gun a little bit, bringing it up in your last topic. Like that movie was them trying to make three movies into one. That's just another great example of Warner Brothers not executing properly.
Hmm.
Because it's either like, okay, well, either you hire bad people or you hire good people and don't give them the direction they need, or you hire bad people, let them keep going until the last hour, and then, oh, we want everything changed.
Yeah.
Also known as the Kathleen Kennedy method.
Yes. Hey, Joker fan, good to see you, man.
Hey, hey.
Um, but yeah, yeah, I'm still mad about that Green Lantern movie.
And I remember I was trying to watch that with my dad, and I walked out of the room after about 20 minutes. So like, no.
Yeah, yeah, it was really bad, and I know, I know one guy who really hated it was, of course, Ethan Van Sciver. Uh,
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
probably the greatest Green Lantern artist of all time, if you're honest,
yeah, yeah,
whether you
yeah,
like him or not.
yeah, yeah. Love him or hate him, he was definitely the best Green Lantern artist ever, and it's such a shame that we can't, just make a good Green Lantern movie. Get somebody in there who knows the characters.
Yeah.
So anyway,
All right, my number 3. Batman should not be the center of the Justice League. He
Mhm.
just should not be. Now I know that this is for the Justice League movie where Superman was dead, but what DC needs to do is they need to, well, just for some context, um, they at least in the comic books and such, if you look at DC's actual output, uh, about half of their comics have been Batman for at least 6 months now. More, actually, no, more than 6 months now. They hit that 50% where everything is Batman or Batman adjacent, like Catwoman, Robin, Nightwing, that type of thing, or it features Batman. If you look at the top 50 comic sales, DC is mostly absent from the top 50 except for Batman. I say mostly because, well, you can only turn Superman's son bisexual once, and they lost that bump pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, Batman is Batman's not a team player most of the time.
Which is funny because modern comics he has like 20 sidekicks
Yeah.
and on multiple teams at any given time.
Yeah, I've always thought Batman was at his greatest when he's working alone,
Hmm.
or at least working out in the field alone. I know he has Alfred, but of course Alfred doesn't go out in the field helping him. It's just him out there. Um, yeah,
Yep.
I've always thought like having like Robin or Batgirl or whoever just kind of took the focus off of him.
Right. You can have a couple of sidekicks or supporting characters, but you, we've hit too many.
Hmm.
We need to have I don't know, a Hunger Games for Robins, and the last Robin out is the only canon Robin.
Yeah. Oh, oh. Sorry, Jason Todd. Oh,
Actually, Jason Todd would probably take that away. Like,
yeah, he probably would. Yeah,
I mean, as much as I don't like Damian would be like, he'd have a probably be like him and Jason Todd would be the ones who would actually have the killer instinct to win that contest.
yeah, yeah. The my third thing would be and I know they're already like doing something like this, but I would love to see an actual like legitimate continuation of Batman the Animated Series.
Hmm.
Because like a lot of people, I grew up watching that show.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's what taught me what Batman is.
yeah, exactly. I watched the Tim Burton Batman movies. I loved them, and then they did the animated series, and yeah, that's where I learned the most about Batman was through that show,
Hmm.
and I would love to see that come back in some way. Now, whether or not you could get like Kevin Conroy,
Hmm.
Kevin Conroy to play Batman again. I know Hamill doesn't want to play Joker anymore because I think doing the voice was
Mm.
too hard on him. But still, I would love to see them do an actual continuation of it, and not necessarily and like keep the animation style almost exactly the same as it was from that show, as opposed to
Hmm.
like what they're doing now. I don't really like what they're doing with it now.
Where it's like the pseudo anime style.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Let's see.
give me classic Batman.
Yeah. All right, number 4 for me. No more Watchmen or Harry Potter spin-offs or sequels. That those stories are done. I know that they make you money, but there is no reason to try to have a sequel to Watchmen or a prequel to Harry Potter.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I enjoyed Watchmen. Harry Potter. Yeah, I mean, I those were pretty good stories or good movies. But yeah, I have not watched a single Fantastic Beast movie. Don't have any desire to. Um, I did not watch the Watchmen TV show, and nobody else did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
HBO shows don't usually just get one season.
yeah, you got to be really bad if you're only getting one season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's been kind of Warner Brothers' MO for a while, isn't it? Like they needlessly will try to sequelize things that are complete, like making The Hobbit a trilogy,
Mhm.
Watchmen pre or sequel, Harry Potter prequel trilogy with plans for a movie set in World War II. Although thankfully it looks like the new movie is bombing, so we may be spared that horrible alternate reality.
Oh, thank God. uh, but so uh, fourth thing for me, I would love to see Looney Tunes come
Mm.
back, and the actual Looney Tunes, not the stuff we're getting now, like the more along the classic lines. And I don't care if they're not PC or not.
You,
I want the old Looney Tunes back.
right, and you don't even have to like. We're not saying you bring back Bosco or anything like that.
No,
Yeah,
no,
there were legitimately offensive things that you can just ignore. Like you,
yeah.
you don't have to have Bugs Bunny. I don't know, running in. Actually, I don't even want to say it. There are some bad Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, avoid like the old World War II propaganda stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well, it was funny seeing Himmler getting beaten up by Bugs Bunny, and that one time I happened to catch it on TV.
yeah, yeah, or hearing Porky Pig, oh, you thought I was gonna say says son of a bitch, did you?
Uh,
For years I thought that was a myth until I finally saw it and went, oh, okay, they actually did it.
yeah.
Yeah. And I would also, an extension, Tiny Toons. I miss Tiny Toons. That was another show I watched when I was a kid. I love Tiny Toons.
Yeah, they brought Animaniacs in, and then Tiny Toons just nobody ever talked about it again.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully, yeah, maybe I know a lot of people are like, oh, they'll bring back old stuff and da da da. Yeah, but every not necessarily a bad thing, to bring back something
Right.
old as long as it's done right. Yeah,
Yeah, I think all the voice actors are still with us. So
yeah.
that's here. My number five, a good Superman video game.
Oh, yes.
Because I mean, they've had good Hulk video games. They've had good Spider-Man video games. They've had good Batman video games.
Hmm.
Being a force of destruction, being a force of destruction like Superman in a game could be a lot of fun. And
Hmm.
if you want to dial back the powers, you can have levels where he's hit with kryptonite, and so suddenly he's just, jumping high instead of flying.
Hmm.
You can, you can be, you can do creative things. It's just that nobody's ever, nobody's ever cracked the code, and that's weird. The,
Yeah, yeah, that would be. Yeah, I would much rather have that game, than obviously than the Nintendo 64 game.
I actually owned that as a kid. My mom got it for me, and I played it, and then I realized like I was never good at it, but yeah, I was at the age where you assume the problem is you and not the game.
Oh,
And then I found out that the game was, so commonly reviled. Like, oh yeah. And I told my mom, I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, mom, no, I actually got to experience one of these all-time worst video games. I could actually talk with people about it.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
thanks for the experience.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remembered seeing it at the store, and I actually wanted to buy it, but I think it was my older brother. It's like,
Mhm.
no, don't buy that game, and he probably because he knew that it was terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So my fifth and final one would be oh God, what was it? I had it for a second. Um. Oh, I guess the fifth and final one would be have like an actual true like Warner Brothers streaming service. Just
Huh.
like a dedicated streaming service. Sort of like Disney Plus. I mean, I know HBO Max is kind of trying to be like that, but actually just have like a separate streaming service specifically for Warner Brothers properties. So like you could put like all the Batman stuff on there, all the Superman stuff. You could put like uh, you know, Looney Tunes and all that stuff. I don't know if that would work or not, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean they sold off Crunchyroll and they've been shuttering all their little streaming services. So probably we're just heading more towards more consolidation there.
Yeah, yeah,
But at the very least, hopefully they improve HBO Max's appearance and performance.
yeah. There we go. All right.
But I mean,
Well,
it's our wish list, not our likely to happen wish. So you want a
yes,
Warner Brothers streaming service, they can make you happy by making that.
yes.
Just like I don't think they're going to actually totally reboot Ruby and ignore the last 5 seasons.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we're, of course, at the end of our nearing the end of our end of the show. Does anybody have any questions they would like to ask us?
Do 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 to tum to tiddly tum. To 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 tum tiddly to tum. Making up a song so the copyright can't get us.
Yes. Well, okay. If nobody's got any questions for us, I guess we'll call it a night.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll don't it live.
Yes, we'll don't it live. All right. Thank you everybody for watching. We really appreciate it.
Mhm.
Do all the nice algorithm things like liking and subscribing and sharing and
Commenting.
commenting and all that good stuff.
Mhm.
And we will see you all next week. And keep an eye out for our next review video, which we'll be doing here in a little bit. So, yeah, until then, good night, everybody.
Sayonara.